Hello and welcome back to Easy English Podcast Daily, a friendly place where learning English becomes simple, practical, and enjoyable. Today, we are going to talk about something that almost everyone wants, but very few people define clearly. Success. When you hear the word success, what comes to your mind? Maybe you imagine a person with a high-paying job. Maybe you think about someone who owns a beautiful house, drives an expensive car, travels around the world, or has thousands of followers online. But success does not always look like that. Sometimes success looks very ordinary. It can look like getting out of bed when you do not feel motivated. It can look like finishing an important task before watching television. It can look like saving a small amount of money every week. It can look like saying no to something that wastes your time. And sometimes success simply means becoming a little better than you were yesterday. Today we are going to explore 5 habits that successful people often develop. These habits are not complicated. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need a perfect life. And you certainly do not need to become a completely different person overnight. The goal is much simpler. We are going to look at small behaviors that can gradually change the way you think, work, and live. So get comfortable. Maybe you are listening while walking to work, traveling on a bus, making breakfast, cleaning your room, or enjoying a quiet cup of tea. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. Habit 1. Keep promises to yourself. Let's start with a habit that sounds simple but is surprisingly powerful. Keep promises to yourself. Think about this. Imagine you tell a friend, "I'll meet you at 7. You probably try to arrive around 7. If you tell your colleague, "I'll send you the document this afternoon," you try to send it. If you promise someone that you will call them, you usually remember. But what happens when you make a promise to yourself? You might say, "I'll go for a walk tomorrow." Tomorrow comes. You feel tired. You tell yourself, "Maybe I'll go the day after tomorrow." Then you say, "I'll start studying on Monday." Monday arrives. Suddenly there is something else to do, and the promise disappears again. This might seem harmless, but there is something important happening underneath. Every time you repeatedly break a promise to yourself, you may begin to trust yourself a little less. And every time you keep one, even a very small one, you strengthen that trust. For example, suppose you decide, "I will read 10 pages every evening." 10 pages may not sound impressive, but if you actually do it every evening for a month, you have created evidence that you can depend on yourself. That is powerful. You do not have to begin with a huge promise. In fact, starting small is often better. Instead of saying, "I will exercise for 1 hour every day," try, "I will walk for 15 minutes after dinner." Instead of, "I will study English for 3 hours every evening," try, "I will practice speaking for 15 minutes. Instead of, "I will completely change my finances," try, "I will check my spending every Sunday." Small promises are easier to keep, and once you keep them consistently, you can gradually make them bigger. Imagine someone living in Manchester. Every morning they say, "I'll check my phone for only 5 minutes before work." But those 5 minutes become 20, then 30, then they are rushing to catch the tram. One day they decide to make a different promise. "I won't open social media until I've had breakfast." That sounds tiny, but they keep it. The next week they add another rule. "I'll spend 10 minutes planning my day before leaving home." Nothing dramatic has happened. There is no movie-style transformation, but something important has changed. They have started proving to themselves, "When I say I will do something, I do it." That confidence can spread into other areas of life. So here's a question for you. What is one small promise you could make to yourself today? Not 10 promises, just one, and make it realistic, because the goal isn't to impress yourself. The goal is to build trust with yourself. Habit 2, learn to start before you feel ready. Our second habit is start before you feel completely ready. This is especially important because many people wait for the perfect moment. They say, I'll start when I have more time, I'll start when I have more money, I'll start when I feel confident, I'll start when I know exactly what I'm doing, but the perfect moment rarely arrives. Imagine someone wants to start a small online business. They spend 6 months choosing a name, then 3 months designing a logo, then they watch dozens of videos about marketing, they buy notebooks, they make plans. They research competitors, but they never actually sell anything. They are preparing to start, they are not starting. Preparation is useful, but preparation can sometimes become a comfortable form of avoidance. You feel productive because you are doing something, but you are avoiding the uncomfortable part. The uncomfortable part is beginning. The first version of anything is usually imperfect. Your first video might feel awkward. Your first presentation might not be brilliant. Your first attempt at speaking English might contain mistakes. Your first job interview might not go perfectly. Your first piece of writing might be terrible, and that's okay. You are not supposed to be excellent at something you have just started. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. Nobody expects a child to get on a bicycle for the first time and immediately ride perfectly. They wobble, they fall, they try again, they learn. The same principle applies to adult life. If you want to improve your English, speak before your English is perfect. If you want to become a writer, write before your writing is perfect. If you want to exercise, begin before you have the perfect routine. If you want to apply for a job, apply before you meet every requirement. Of course, you should be sensible, you should prepare when preparation matters, but don't confuse preparation with progress. Sometimes you learn more from doing something badly than from watching 10 people explain how to do it. Imagine a person in Leeds who wants to become more confident speaking in meetings. They could spend months reading books about confidence, or they could do something much smaller. At the next meeting, they could simply ask one question. That's it, one question. The following week, they could share one idea. A few weeks later, they might volunteer to explain something. Confidence does not always arrive before action. Very often, confidence is created by action. So if there is something you've been postponing because you don't feel ready, ask yourself, what is the smallest version of this that I can start today? Not the perfect version, the smallest version. Start there. Habit 3, protect your attention. The third habit is increasingly important in modern life. Protect your attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own, and every day thousands of things are competing for it. Your phone, messages, emails, news, videos, advertisements, notifications, social media. People asking questions, and sometimes your own thoughts. You can have 8 free hours in a day and still feel like you achieved nothing. Why? Because your attention was divided into tiny pieces. Imagine sitting down to study. You open your laptop, you read one paragraph, your phone vibrates, you check the message, then you notice another notification, you open an app, you watch a short video, another video appears, 20 minutes disappear. You return to your work, now you need to remember what you were doing. This happens repeatedly. At the end of the evening you feel exhausted, but you have not necessarily done difficult work, you've done interrupted work. And interrupted work can be mentally expensive. Successful people are not necessarily people who have more time, they often become better at deciding where their attention goes. This does not mean throwing your phone away and living in a forest, it means creating boundaries. For example, when you're working, put your phone somewhere you cannot easily reach it. When you're studying, close unnecessary tabs. When you're eating, try having a meal without scrolling. When you're talking to someone, give them your full attention. When you're watching something, watch it intentionally rather than endlessly jumping between apps. Even simple changes can help. Imagine you are working in a small cafe in Bristol. You have one important task to finish. Instead of checking messages every 3 minutes, you decide, for the next 30 minutes I'm only doing this. 30 minutes later you can check your phone. This creates a clear boundary, and boundaries create focus. You don't have to focus for 5 hours. Start with 20 or 30 minutes. One focused half hour can be more valuable than 2 hours of constant interruption. And here's another important point. Protecting your attention also means being careful about what you consume. If you spend hours watching people online who make you feel unsuccessful, anxious, or inadequate, ask yourself, is this helping me? You don't have to follow everything simply because it's popular. Your attention is yours. Choose where you spend it. Habit 4. Make decisions based on the long term. The fourth habit is, think beyond today. Modern life encourages immediate rewards. You want something, buy it now. You are bored, watch something now. You don't want to do the difficult task, do something easier now. You want entertainment, it's available immediately. There is nothing wrong with enjoying life. The problem begins when every decision is based only on how we feel at this moment. Successful people often learn to ask another question: how will I feel about this decision later? Let's take money. Imagine you receive your salary at the end of the month. You could spend everything during the first 2 weeks. New clothes, meals out, online shopping, entertainment, small purchases. Each purchase seems harmless, but together they can become a problem. Now imagine another approach. You receive your salary and immediately put a small amount aside. Maybe it isn't much, but you save first, then you spend what remains. The difference may not feel exciting today, but 6 months later the difference can be significant. The same principle applies to health. You may not feel like going for a walk on a rainy Tuesday evening, but you know that moving your body regularly is good for you. You may not feel like studying after work, but you know that learning a new skill could help you in the future. You may want to stay awake watching another episode, but you know that tomorrow morning will be easier if you sleep. Long-term thinking is not about never having fun. It is about not allowing today's feelings to control your entire future. Imagine someone living in Glasgow. It is raining. They plan to go for a short walk. They look outside and think, absolutely not, so they stay home. That's fine, but suppose this becomes the pattern every day. Eventually they might feel less energetic. Now imagine they say, I'll wait until the rain becomes lighter, put on a waterproof jacket and walk for 15 minutes. That's long-term thinking. It is not dramatic. It is simply choosing a small action that supports the person you want to become. Here's a useful question. Will my future self thank me for this? Before spending money, ask it. Before wasting an hour, ask it. Before giving up on something important, ask it. Before making a decision that could affect your future, ask it. Your future self is being created by the decisions you make today. Habit 5. Review your life regularly. Our fifth and final habit is one that many people overlook. Review your life. Most people are busy doing. They work, they study, they clean, they travel, they answer messages, they complete tasks. Then another week begins, and another. But how often do we stop and ask, is what I'm doing actually working? Imagine you're driving somewhere unfamiliar. You wouldn't simply drive for hours without checking the road. You would look at the signs, you would check the map, you would make adjustments. Life is similar. You need moments when you stop and check your direction. This doesn't need to be complicated. Once a week, take 15 or 20 minutes. Sit somewhere quiet, maybe at your kitchen table. Maybe in a park, maybe with a cup of tea, and ask yourself a few questions. What went well this week? What didn't go well? What did I spend too much time doing? What should I do more of? What should I do less of? What is one thing I want to improve next week? You don't need to judge yourself. The purpose isn't to say, I'm useless. The purpose is to learn. Imagine someone wants to improve their finances. They review their spending every Sunday. At first, they discover that they spend far more on takeaway coffee and food deliveries than they realized. They don't need to become extremely strict, they simply become aware. Awareness creates choices. Or imagine someone wants to improve their English. At the end of each week they ask, which words did I struggle with? Where did I hesitate? What pronunciation mistakes did I make? Then they practice those specific areas. This is much more effective than simply saying, I need to improve my English. Specific reflection creates specific action, and there's another benefit. Reviewing your life helps you notice progress. Sometimes improvement is so gradual that you don't see it. You might think, I'm not getting anywhere, but then you look back 3 months and realize, I can do things now that were difficult for me before. That is why reflection matters. It gives you evidence, putting the 5 habits together. So let's quickly review our 5 habits. Number 1, keep promises to yourself. Build trust by doing what you said you would do. Number 2, start before you feel ready. Don't wait for perfect confidence or perfect conditions. Number 3, protect your attention. Decide what deserves your time and focus. Number 4, think long term. Don't let temporary feelings make every important decision. And number 5, review your life regularly. Stop occasionally, look at your direction and make adjustments. Notice something interesting. None of these habits requires you to become extremely productive. You don't need to wake up at 5 in the morning. You don't need to work 12 hours a day. You don't need to follow a complicated routine. Success is not necessarily about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing fewer things more intentionally. A simple 7-day challenge. If you want to try these habits, here's a simple challenge. For the next 7 days, don't try to completely change your life. Just practice 5 small behaviors. On day 1, make one small promise to yourself and keep it. On day 2, start something you've been postponing for 10 minutes. On day 3, spend 30 minutes without unnecessary notifications. On day 4, make one decision based on your future rather than your immediate feelings. On day 5, write down 3 things that are working well in your life. On day 6, notice one habit that is wasting your time. And on day 7, review the entire week. What changed? Maybe nothing dramatic happened, and that's okay. The purpose of habits isn't to create dramatic changes overnight. The purpose is to create a direction. Imagine a train leaving London. If it is slightly off course, it might eventually end up somewhere completely different. A tiny adjustment at the beginning can create a big difference later. Your habits work in a similar way. A small decision repeated many times becomes a lifestyle, and your lifestyle shapes your future. Final thoughts before we finish today's episode. Remember something important. You don't have to become a perfect version of yourself. You don't need to wake up tomorrow with unlimited motivation. You don't need to completely change your personality. You don't even need to know exactly where your life will be 5 years from now. You simply need to make the next useful decision. Keep one promise. Start one thing, protect one block of attention, make one long-term decision, and take a few minutes to reflect, then do it again tomorrow. Success is often much quieter than we imagine. Sometimes it is sitting at a desk and finishing the work you wanted to avoid. Sometimes it is saving money instead of spending it. Sometimes it is closing your phone and having a real conversation. Sometimes it is taking a walk when you would rather stay on the sofa. Sometimes it is admitting that something isn't working and changing your approach. And sometimes success is simply refusing to give up on yourself. So as you finish listening today, think about this question. What is one small habit that your future self would be grateful you started today? You don't need to answer it perfectly. Just choose one, start small. Stay consistent and give yourself time. Thank you for spending these minutes with me on Easy English Podcast Daily. And remember, you don't need to change your whole life today. You only need to make today's choices a little better. If you enjoyed this episode and want to improve your English with more simple, practical conversations, don't forget to subscribe to Easy English Podcast Daily. And if this episode helped you, share it with someone who is also learning English. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.